My wife replaced our daughter while I was away on a work trip. I had to do something. I know how that title sounds. If someone else had told me this story a few months ago, I would have called him insane. But I'm not insane. At least, I don't think I am. My name isn't important. What matters is what happened to my daughter. Her name is Abby. She was 5 years old. And 6 weeks ago, she disappeared. The strange thing is, nobody else seems to think she's gone. I'm a psychiatrist. My job is literally to identify irrational thinking, delusions, paranoia, false memories. I've spent years helping people separate reality from fiction, which makes what happened next even harder to explain. About 6 weeks ago, I was sent out of state for work. The details aren't important. What matters is that it was urgent. I had to leave immediately. I still remember kneeling down before I left. Abby wrapped her arms around my neck. I kissed her forehead. She laughed. Then she told me to bring her something back from the airport. That was the last time I saw my daughter. At least, the last time I saw the real Abby. The trip lasted longer than expected. When I finally got home, I was exhausted. I slept almost 10 hours straight. Then I buried myself in work. For several days, I barely paid attention to anything else. At first, I thought Abby was just acting different because I'd been gone. Kids change quickly, especially at that age. But little things started bothering me. Tiny details, things that shouldn't have mattered, except they did. One evening, she was watching a cartoon she'd never liked before. A few days later, she mentioned a friend whose name I'd never heard. Then I noticed her hair looked slightly different. Not dramatically different, just enough to make me pause. I kept telling myself I was overthinking, I'd been under a lot of stress. Maybe I was looking for problems that weren't there. Then breakfast happened, and everything changed. My wife made breakfasts like she always did. I got an omelet, but Abby got scrambled eggs. That probably sounds ridiculous, but here's the thing. Abby hated scrambled eggs. She always had, since she was old enough to talk. She'd complain about them every single time. But that morning, she sat there eating them like they were her favorite food in the world. And suddenly, I couldn't ignore the feeling anymore. For almost 30 seconds, I just stared at her, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Then I looked at my wife. She immediately noticed. "What?" she asked. I pointed at Abby's plate. "Since when does she eat scrambled eggs?" My wife rolled her eyes, the kind of look people give when they're already tired of a conversation. "What are you talking about? Abby hates scrambled eggs." "No, she doesn't." "Yes, she does." My wife sighed. Then she laughed. Not because she thought it was funny, because she thought I was being ridiculous. That bothered me more than it should have, because suddenly all those other little differences came rushing back. The cartoons, the friends, the interests, the way she spoke, the way she smiled, even the way she looked at me sometimes, as if she knew me, but not completely. I could feel my heart pounding, and for the first time, a thought entered my mind that I couldn't shake. What if this wasn't Abby? What if something had happened while I was gone? I know how crazy that sounds. Trust me, nobody understands that better than I do. But once that thought appeared, I couldn't get rid of it. And from that moment forward, every single thing I saw seemed to confirm it. I couldn't focus at work. Every patient, every appointment, every conversation, my mind kept drifting back to breakfast. By lunchtime, I was convinced I needed answers. I canceled the rest of my appointments. Then I drove to a small restaurant near my office, the kind of place nobody would bother me. I ordered coffee, opened my laptop, and started reviewing our home security footage. We had cameras covering almost everything. The driveway, the front door, the backyard, even the main living room. If something had happened to Abby while I was away, I'd find it there. For hours, I watched footage. I sped through entire days, then slowed down anything unusual. Nothing. No strangers, no suspicious activity, no unexplained visitors. Nothing. Everything looked normal. Too normal. And that's what scared me. Because if Abby had really been replaced, then somebody had covered their tracks perfectly. I started checking old messages, texts from my wife while I was away, photos she sent, videos of Abby smiling. everything looked real. Every piece of evidence told me the same thing. Nothing happened, but my instincts refused to let it go. And when your instincts and the evidence completely disagree, one of them is lying. I just didn't know which one. I stayed there until almost midnight. My coffee had gone cold hours earlier. I barely noticed. My phone was filled with missed calls, most of them from my wife. The rest were messages. "Where are you? Please call me. Are you okay?" The concern should have comforted me. Instead, it made me suspicious. Why was she so desperate to reach me? What was she afraid I'd discover? By the time I got home, the house was dark. Both of them were asleep, or pretending to be. I quietly searched everything. The garage, the backyard, the trash bins, my wife's car, every storage closet, every cabinet. I was looking for anything. A clue, a mistake, something she forgot to hide. Hours passed, nothing. By 3 a.m, I was exhausted, and for the first time, I allowed myself to consider the possibility that Abby was gone forever. I sat alone in the garage, crying, completely broken, because if I was right, then my daughter was gone, and nobody was helping me find her. Not the police, not my wife, nobody. Then a terrible thought entered my head. If no one was going to tell me the truth, I'd have to force the truth out of them. Looking back now, this was the moment everything became irreversible. I wish I had left the house. I wish I had called someone. Anyone. Instead, I convinced myself that I was the only person seeing reality. That everyone else was either lying or being manipulated. I went upstairs, slowly, quietly. My wife was asleep. At least I think she was. I opened the bedside drawer and took out my gun. The second my hand touched it, part of me knew this was wrong, but another part was screaming that Abby needed me, that she was somewhere out there, waiting, depending on me. I burst into Abby's room. She was sitting up in bed, terrified, crying. The moment she saw me, she pulled the blanket tighter around herself. I remember thinking how strange that was. My daughter never acted like that around me. Never. Yet somehow, instead of questioning my own behavior, I took it as more proof, more evidence, more confirmation that something was wrong. My wife rushed into the room behind me. She was begging me to calm down, begging me to listen. But I wasn't listening anymore. I had spent days convincing myself that I knew the truth. And once a person becomes certain enough, they stop seeing reality. They only see evidence that supports what they already believe. I demanded answers over and over. My wife kept repeating the same thing. "That's Abby. Please look at her. Please." The little girl on the bed was crying so hard she could barely speak. Then she said something. Just 3 words. "Daddy, it's me." And for the first time, I hesitated. Not because I believed her, but because part of me suddenly realized I wanted her to be right. Everything started falling apart after that. Not around me, inside me. Memories I'd been absolutely certain about suddenly felt wrong. I remembered Abby refusing to eat omelets, not scrambled eggs. I remembered her favorite cartoons, her favorite colors, her favorite toys. But now those memories contradicted other memories, and I couldn't tell which ones were real anymore. It felt like my brain was fighting itself, like 2 completely different versions of reality were colliding. Then I noticed something, a small detail, a detail I should have remembered from the beginning. A birthmark, one Abby had always had. The child standing in front of me had that exact birthmark. The room went silent. My wife stopped talking. I stopped talking. And in that horrible moment, the truth finally broke through. Nobody had replaced Abby. Nobody had kidnapped her. Nobody had hidden her from me. The person I had stopped trusting wasn't my wife. It was myself. Every warning sign had been there. The stress, the sleepless nights, the obsession, the paranoia. As a psychiatrist, I'd spent years studying mental health. Yet somehow, I never noticed my own mind slipping away. I don't know how much time passed after that. Minutes, maybe hours. Everything feels fragmented now, like pieces of a nightmare I can't fully remember. What I do remember is my wife holding Abby, both of them crying, and me sitting there, realizing what I had almost done, realizing how close I came to destroying everything. The cases I worked on during that trip, the town I researched, the things I became obsessed with. Somewhere along the way, I stopped questioning my thoughts. I stopped testing them. I stopped doing the very thing I encourage my patients to do every day. Instead, I fed the fear, and the fear fed me back. If you're listening to this, please remember something. The human mind is powerful. Powerful enough to convince you that you're right. Powerful enough to make you distrust everyone around you. Powerful enough to turn certainty into a trap. I spent weeks believing everyone else was lying, when in reality, the only thing betraying me was my own perception.